Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this video, we're going to be doing some wild and salacious speculation on upcoming news in the Age of Empires franchise. If you aren't aware, this Friday, February 23rd, there's going to be a live stream at 10 a.m. Pacific time sharing news about AoE2, 3, 4, Age of Mythology, and Age of Empires Mobile back-to-back. They've given a tease of what they'll be talking about for each, though I thought we'd go further and have some fun speculating on what might be coming up not just in this particular live stream, but my guesses at what we can expect in the franchise for the next little while. Starting off with Age of Empires 2, what we've been told at this point is we'll have a brand new campaign-focused expansion and an extended look at some gameplay of that. This is, of course, the first expansion for AoE2 that's campaign only, making it quite a departure from the usual business model of new civilizations being the main selling feature. We recently had animated icon DLC packs in December, so this isn't the first time they're trying some different approaches to generate revenue. I wouldn't assume this means an end to new DLC civilizations forever, but it really does make sense for them to look for extra things to sell, if for no other reason than to keep paying these server costs and keep devs employed, while avoiding new civ fatigue that I think some players are starting to feel with 2 DLCs last year, and consistently at least 1 per year since Definitive Edition came out. Creative monetization ideas seem to be one area where AoE 3 has actually been leading the charge, with last year introducing some cosmetic packs for heroes, opening the door to a similar idea being tried, not necessarily for heroes, but maybe unit or civilization skins in AoE 2 at some point. As for where this upcoming campaign DLC will focus, there are a few possibilities. They could do a variety pack of standalone missions like another historical battles tab, but I think it's more likely these are fleshed out 5 to 6 mission campaigns. At the moment, civilizations without a dedicated campaign include Japanese, Chinese, as I don't think it makes sense to count Art of War as a campaign, Koreans, Romans, Vikings, Turks, and Mayans by my count. One obvious thing that jumps out in that list is a potential pairing of the 3 East Asian civilizations that can make for a nice themed DLC. On the flip side, a Viking one, I suspect, would be pretty popular, and I could see them wanting to include that to give this campaign DLC experiment its best shot at grabbing attention. What I'm also curious about is what they charge, whether this is $5, $10, or something in between. If they go $5, they're probably leaving some money on the table from players who would buy just about anything to support the game. But on the flip side, if they push it to $10, that starts to compete with prior DLCs in that price range and give not just campaigns, but new civs on top, and I suspect that price would get some pushback. One thing to remember is it's harder to make a campaign DLC than to just have someone make the 15 or 18 missions, as you have the story concept and research within the actual scenario editor and triggers to make, but you then need to hire voice actors in the 17 languages supported by AoE2 to record their parts, as well as then the artists for the cutscenes and any new hero units that are created. So even at $10, this doesn't feel like a huge cash cow for Microsoft, and is probably more just trying to give ways for the passionate fan base to support the game. Altogether, my guess is 3 campaigns in East Asia for $7 as a way to test the waters, but I could be totally wrong about that, and we'll see on Friday. Next up, for AoE 3, they say that after giving players a way to play for free last year, they're excited to reveal a DLC with new civilizations. If you didn't hear, as of last August, anyone can try AoE 3 Definitive Edition with some limited access to civilizations, and you have to buy the game to play ranked and unlock everything, obviously. Even before this DLC announcement, AoE 3 has been getting a ton of developer attention between major balance changes, the free-to-play move, and now another DLC coming, where it's quietly become a really well-supported and, in my opinion, underrated game in the franchise at this point. Since Definitive Edition, they've added Incas, Swedes, United States, Mexicans, Ethiopians, the Hausa, Italians, and Malta. This will almost certainly be 2 more civilizations coming, as that's been the pattern. After the last DLC, including Italy and Malta, I expect they'll try to stay out of Europe, though a Poland/Lithuanian civ would no doubt be popular, as they were in AoE 2. And if anything, Winged Hussars are probably more appropriate in the AoE 3 time period. I could also see a Persian empire of some sort, with Safavids fitting the time period of the game nicely. One thing to keep in mind is the revolution mechanic AoE 3 has really expanded on, where you can become another country, actually burn through a lot of potential DLC civs, including Brazil, Finland, Hungary, Indonesia, and South Africa, among many others. I don't have too strong of a conviction, and I would definitely not have guessed Italy or Malta last time, but I'm gonna guess Poles and a Persian civ for this DLC. It would be a bit of a weird combo, but I'm hedging my bets, as I feel at least one of those 2 is right. Moving on now to AoE 4, they start by noting that the Sultan's Ascend DLC was the best-selling expansion in the franchise ever, as a little flex. Even if you're just comparing the first few months of sales and not lifetime sales, I have to admit it's very surprising to hear it outsold Age of Conquerors. That was not just a successful expansion, but was one of the highest selling PC releases, period, for several years in the early 2000s, with one estimate at the time suggesting it was almost a top 10 game over that time period. Besides being a sign of how well the first DLC was received by AoE 4 fans, it might just go to show just how much PC gaming has expanded over the last 20 years. Now, they don't mention any news about a follow-up expansion for AoE 4, but obviously another one is coming at some point, with October or November seeming to be their preferred time to release new content. I have no doubt the next DLC will continue the variant idea, and I'd also be pretty confident guessing there's an Aztec and/or Viking civilization added next time. Of course, the Conquerors expansion added Aztecs and Spanish as a pair for campaign reasons, and that also makes a lot of sense to me. A campaign where you flip between two new civilizations like that would be thematically pretty interesting, telling a story from two perspectives. The idea that every historical event has two sides with very different viewpoints feels fitting to me for a game that has pushed hard to do more than just a superficial look at the history it covers, and would probably be my suggestion if I ever got invited to an AoE 4 pitch meeting. To be clear, the only thing to expect on Friday's announcement, though, is a new ranked season and in-game rewards, with presumably things like player icons and town center statues to unlock, and at best, maybe a confirmation they're hard at work on the next DLC, with details to follow later this year. Moving on, we're also getting some news about Age of Empires Mobile, which is being developed by a subsidiary of the Chinese development studio Tencent Games. The studio making this, called Timmy Studios, has made a few different mobile games in the past, including a successful Pokemon MOBA, a PUBG Battlegrounds mobile adaptation, and Call of Duty Mobile. So adapting popular games seems to be right up their alley, with pretty good reviews from what I've seen in the past. AoE Mobile was announced a while ago, but with very little info publicly so far, other than some non-gameplay screenshots on Facebook that you're seeing. This week, it sounds like we get our first look at gameplay and some behind-the-scenes stuff. It'll be interesting to see how they try to capture the feel of Age of Empires on a phone, and to what extent this is an adaptation of one of the existing Age of Empires games, or if it goes in a very different direction they think is better suited for mobile. Given it was announced quite a while ago, we may even get a release date, though even just some gameplay and hearing the direction they're going for will clarify a lot. In that vein, moving on, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm expecting a release date or general timeline for Age of Mythology Retold on Friday. This was announced way back in October 2022, and we haven't seen any gameplay yet, but they say we'll have a look behind the curtain as well as revealing a few mythological creatures. To recap, the game currently has Greeks, Egyptians, Norse, Atlanteans, and Chinese, though I expect the devs wouldn't mind taking another crack at Chinese, as the Tale of the Dragon release in 2016 was pretty controversial due to poor performance and also for the civ design in general. Full disclosure, I never bought that expansion, so I have to take other people's word for that. I have to say though, I feel like Forgotten Empire Studio has come a long way since then, with experience working on many DLCs, and an overhaul of Chinese has basically been confirmed at this point in an interview with Adam Eisgreen. Adding a new civilization on top of that would also make sense to me if they were trying to make a splash, though depending on how extensive the Chinese rework is, they might hold off on a new civ for now. Given how every civilization in Age of Mythology plays like several in one through your choice of major and minor gods, I could see new DLCs of single civilizations trickling out once a year as a sustainable plan, and there's certainly a passionate Age of Mythology following out there. I feel like Mythology Retold will conservatively be at least as popular as AoE 3 Definitive Edition, which continues to get a lot of support as we've seen. In some ways, I imagine Age of Mythology is also the most fun game in the franchise to work on, as while reading into different pantheons, you can't help but have interesting ideas for bonuses and powers jump out. Myths have good stories and interesting characters, and are some of the best stories humanity has collectively come up with, surviving thousands of years. So there's amazing source material, and so many parts of the world that haven't been explored by the game yet, with Aztec, Celtic, Hindu, Japanese, or Sumerian pantheons and mythologies being just a few that come to mind. One thing that didn't really hold up from the original is the graphics, at least for me, as 3D graphics from the early 2000s were a little janky, limited by tech at that time. Seeing it at a similar quality to Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition is something I'm looking forward to, and we'll hopefully get a look at the new graphics on Friday. Those are all just my thoughts though, and what I'm looking for in a few days. I expect to make a follow-up on Friday summarizing the biggest news items, and probably eating some humble pie after I'm over however many predictions I just made. Let me know what you're looking forward to. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.